Bull Bear Buzz podcast for decoding markets, fueling minds. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, all those articles and notes, and really dig in to pull out the core insights for you.
Yeah, we're basically filtering through the noise to get you the key takeaways, based only on the material you've given us.
And for this deep dive, you've sent over some recent info on two stocks, Radico Khaitan and Ruchira papers. So our mission is to unpack what's driving them and what the analysts are saying.
Looking at the news, the performance, the expert takes all from your sources.
Okay, let's dive right in. Starting with Radico Khaitan. The immediate thing that jumps out from your sources is that recent share price bump.
It climbed about 3% intraday on May 26th.
And the trigger for that, according to the articles?
Seems directly linked to the company launching 2 new whiskeys.
New products. And they sound kind of fancy: Morpheus Super Premium Whiskey and Tricale Indian Single Malt.
Exactly. And the price points mentioned really back that up. Morpheus is $1,200 to $1,500.
Okay.
And Tricale is significantly higher. We're talking $3,500 to $4,500.
Wow. Okay. So definitely pushing into that more premium, maybe even luxury space.
That's the clear signal. It lines up with a quote in there from the MD, Abhishek Khaitan.
What did he say?
He mentioned it reflects their vision of innovation-led homegrown luxury and elevating Indian spirits. So it's a strategic move.
Makes sense. More premium products often mean potentially better margins down the line.
Potentially, yes. Though the source does note they've faced some margin pressure historically from external factors, but this strategy is clearly aimed at boosting that.
And beyond that one-day news reaction, the sources also give us the bigger picture on performance. It's had quite a run, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Up nearly 53% over the last year, according to the material.
That's pretty significant. And it hit a 52-week high just recently?
It did. 2,666 on May 7th. The low was back in June last year, around 1,429. Quite a range.
And even looking month to month recently, it's been positive.
Right. The articles mentioned it closed in the green for 3 straight months leading up to this news. March, up 17%, April 1%, May 2%. Steady climb.
Okay. And just for context, the sources threw in some shareholding data too.
Yeah, Q4 FY25 data showed stakes from Mukul Agrawal at 1.05%, FPIs holding about 16.9%, and DIIs around 26.8%. Gives you a sense of who's holding it.
All right, so we've got the new product catalyst, a strong trend, recent momentum. But the big question the articles tackle is it a buy now?
And this is where it gets interesting because you see a split in the analysis provided. You've got the fundamental view and then the technical take.
Let's start with the fundamentals. What's the long-term picture look like according to these analysts?
Pretty positive, mostly. Motilal Oswal, for instance, initiated coverage with a buy.
Okay, a buy call. What's their target price?
They set it at 3,000, which from the levels mentioned suggests maybe a 22% upside.
And why are they bullish?
They talk about Radico's long-term operational journey, the successful move into the prestige and above, or P&A segment. Despite those margin headwinds we mentioned, they feel the story is well-cooked but still see growth.
What kind of growth are they projecting?
Pretty strong numbers. Over FY25 to FY28, they're modeling revenue CAGR of 16%.
16%. Okay.
With P&A growing 15%. Overall volume growth around 9%. And importantly, they see the EBITDA margin improving from like 13.9% up to 16.2%.
So margin expansion is key to their thesis.
Definitely. That feeds into projected EBITDA and profit growth CAGRs of 22% and 30% respectively.
30% profit growth.
Okay.
That's significant. How do they justify the valuation? Because it sounds like it might be trading high already.
It is. They note it's trading at 67 times FY26 estimated earnings, 53 times FY27, which is rich.
Yeah.
But they argue that a nearly 30% projected EPS CAGR is sort of good enough to support that. Oh. Their 3,000 target comes from applying a 60x PE multiple to their June 2027 earnings estimate.
So confidence in future execution driving that valuation justification. Any other fundamental views?
Shreya Mehra from Bonanza is also mentioned, sounding optimistic. She focuses on the new launches, widening the customer base and boosting trade confidence. She expects strong earnings growth over the next 3 to 5 years and points to Radico's really impressive history, like a 25 times return in 10 years, 8 times in 5. Context matters.
Wow, 25 times. Okay, so the fundamental analysts seem pretty convinced about the long-term story, but you mentioned a technical take.
Exactly. The sources bring in technical analysts who look purely at the charts and price action, and they sound a note of caution about the timing.
Okay, what are they seeing?
Kshitij Gandhi from SMC Global Securities acknowledges the bullish trend, the rising channel, higher bottoms, that's all positive.
Right.
But he points out the stock is getting close to a key resistance area, around 2,600 to 2,650.
Resistance, meaning a level where selling pressure might increase.
Precisely. And he adds that his indicators suggest the stock is overbought and volumes are actually decreasing as the price goes up. Not ideal signs for immediate further gains.
So his advice:
caution on starting new positions right at these levels. The risk-reward might not be great. He suggests maybe waiting for a pullback, perhaps towards 2,350 for a better entry.
Makes sense from a technical perspective. Anyone else?
Hardik Matalia at Choice Broking, looking at derivatives, sees a similar picture. Broader uptrend is intact, higher highs and lows.
Okay.
But also notes it faced selling near the record highs and pulled back a bit. Some hesitation there.
What about indicators?
His RSI reading was around 47.50, which is kind of neutral, suggesting maybe sideways movement or a slight correction could be next. Mixed signals from moving averages too. Short-term caution, but underlying trend still bullish.
So what's his bottom line?
He thinks the bullish view holds as long as it stays above 12200. A dip towards that level could actually be a buying opportunity if it holds.
And tactical advice.
For short-term traders, maybe wait for a clearer signal like a bounce-off support or a break above that Euro 2,625 resistance. For longer-term investors, perhaps consider taking a partial position now, but be ready to add more if it dips towards support.
Okay, so that's a really interesting contrast. Fundamentally, the story looks strong for the long haul, based on strategy and growth potential.
Right, the premiumization play seems compelling to those analysts.
But technically, the message is more about near-term caution. The price might be a bit stretched, hitting resistance, suggesting maybe patience is needed for a better entry point.
Exactly. It really highlights how different analytical approaches can lead to different immediate conclusions, even on the same stock.
Fascinating. Okay, let's switch gears to the second stock from your sources. Ruchira Papers. This one's a small cap, right?
Yeah, smaller company. And the news hook here was also pretty direct. The shares jumped significantly 11% intraday on May 26.
11%. What triggered that? Not new products this time.
No, according to the source, this was all about their Q4 results for FY25, which came out after hours, and they also announced a dividend.
Earnings beat perhaps? What were the key numbers?
The headline was a huge jump in profit, up 91% compared to the same quarter last year. Went from about 9.6 crore to 18.4 crore.
91% profit jump. That's massive. What about revenue?
That's the interesting part. Revenue was basically flat up only 1% year over year to around 161.7 crore.
Wow. So profits nearly doubled on flat revenue. That points to, what, significant cost cutting or efficiency improvements.
Has to be something like that, yeah. Big improvement in profitability, clearly.
And the dividend?
They recommended 5 per share for the financial year, subject to approval. The source notes it's their second dividend payment in the last year.
Okay, so you put together that huge earnings beat and a dividend announcement.
And you get an 11% stock price surge. Makes sense. It hit a high of 142.75 that day.
What about its longer-term performance?
The article gives some context. That jump helped push its gain over the last year to about 14%. Market cap is over 420 crore.
And historically?
It's been quite a performer, apparently. A multi-bagger, the source mentions 344% gains over 5 years and 466% over 10 years.
So, a different kind of story than Radico. More about a strong reaction to recent financial performance and shareholder returns, layered on top of impressive historical gains.
Exactly. Less focus in the source material on, say, long-term strategic shifts, and more on the immediate impact of those strong Q4 numbers and the dividend.
Okay, so we've taken a deep dive into Radico, Khaitan, and Ruchira Papers using the articles you provided. Let's try and connect this back to you, the listener. What are the takeaways here?
Well, we saw 2 different catalysts, right? A strategic product launch driving Radico, and strong financial results driving Ruchira. News impacts stocks in various ways.
And the analysis differs too. Radico had that mixed, strong, fundamental optimism about the long-term strategies, clashing a bit with technical warnings about the current price.
Whereas with Ruchira, the analysis presented seemed more directly tied to that positive earnings surprise and the dividend news, especially when viewed against its history as a multi-bagger.
It really shows the different layers analysts look at: product strategy, financials, charts, history, even shareholding patterns.
And maybe it prompts some questions for you to consider, like, How much weight do you give to a company's fundamental growth story, that long-term vision, compared to what the technical charts might be telling you about market timing right now?
Yeah, that Radico example is perfect for that. Or how much does a really strong historical track record like Ruchira's influence how you view its future potential based on recent news? Does past success make you more confident?
These are the kinds of things investors grapple with using the type of information we've just unpacked from your sources.
And building on that Radico discussion, here's a final thought to chew on. You have analysts confident in the long-term earnings growth, potentially justifying high valuations, and other analysts pointing to technical signals suggesting near-term caution or waiting for a better entry price. How do you, as an investor, balance that belief in a long-term narrative with the day-to-day realities of market fluctuations, entry points, and managing risk?
It's a key challenge, definitely something to think about.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and not financial advice. We are not SEBI-registered advisors. Investing in stocks carries risks, including potential loss. Consult a SEBI-registered advisor before deciding. We are not liable for any losses from decisions based on this information. For more unbiased update, please subscribe to Bull Bear Buzz podcast.